All right, welcome to another installment of Tico's tutorials. But this is actually for Elise Spain, one of my students. I'm a computer science team lead, aka like a teaching assistant. But Elise has been struggling with just getting her Django project deployed to Heroku, which is a very common problem everyone's been having. Not just Elise, myself included. So I'm going to be walking through. The Lambda School Sprint Challenge Intro to Django Deploy to Heroku repo, step by step, to help clarify anything that might be confusing. And that should provide a good example for what needs to be done for CS Build Week 1, in which students are supposed to build an interactive MUD, multi-user dungeon, like a game that includes like a client and a server. The server is what Elise is struggling with, getting that deployed to Heroku. So we're going to focus on that. If you watch the previous video to this one, we went over Intro to Django, day 1 guide of the Forked Lambda School Intro to Django repo, in which we go and we actually set up a virtual environment. We made a Django project and app. We started the server, ran migration. We created migrations and then ran them. Then we added some data models, which we were able to create inside of a Python replit and even save to a database straight from the replit. And we're also able to use Python decouple, which is a package that allows you to move, allows you to import like the secret key from a .env file in a way that is a little bit better than using just environment variables, because it imports it or brings it in. It brings it in while retaining the original data type. So like if you're storing a bool value, so in Python they have bools, JavaScript they have booleans. So if you store a bool value inside of the .env file and you are like interpolating it somewhere else, that would need that secret value, then I guess the environment variable package would normally just interpolate it as a string, whereas the Python decouple package would actually preserve the data type of that value, and it would actually interpolate a bool value, because it allows you to cast data types, as you can see right here. And also we learned how to create some new secret keys right there in the Python REPL. Okay, so if you want to watch that video, that's actually it's unlisted in my YouTube account. So you have to hit me up for it. TicoTep at GitHub, or sorry, at TicoTeps on GitHub. You can reach me there, or hit me up on Slack, TicoTeps on Slack as well. Okay, so here's what we're going over. The Sprint Challenge Intro to Django Deploy to Heroku, so that anybody who's having trouble deploying to Heroku can practice on this example, and then maybe have less trouble doing it with the Build Week project. Okay, so where do we start? First thing I want to do is I'm on my GitHub account here, TicoTeps. I'm just going to click fork, and let's fork it to my GitHub account. Excuse me. Let's make this a little bit bigger so you can see a little bit better. There you go. Hopefully you can see better. Okay, so I forked it. It's on my account. As you can see here, it says forked from Lambda School / Sprint Challenge -- Django 1. So first thing I want to do is I want to clone it. So I'm going to click this clone or download button. Then I'm going to click this little copy icon in the clone with HTTPS. We'll click that copy icon. Then we're going to come over here to Go here to my, actually, you know what? This is the repo. Yeah, it's the same. No, it's actually not the same repo, sorry. That was the intro to Django repo. This is the Sprint Challenge repo. My apologies. Okay, so we're actually gonna go to my hyper terminal right here. We're gonna cd out of this into the root, I guess, root directory. So let's see, ls, we're gonna go to, we're gonna cd into my projects, actually Lambda projects. ls, let's see what's in there. Let's go to CS24. So we'll cd into CS24. And we have intro to Django in there. Okay, so here is the directory that I'm going to clone the Sprint Challenge repo into. So git clone, and I'll just paste the URL address that I copied from the repo earlier, hit enter. And now if I type ls command in, there it is, Sprint Challenge --Django I. So we're gonna cd into that Sprint Challenge repo. And as you can see, I am on the master branch right away. So let's type in code with a period, which just means open up VS Code with this directory. Open this directory in VS Code. Sorry, it's getting late. Okay, so let's do this. Make it big. All right, so let's close out of that. I'm going to hit Control tilde. Tilde is it's a backtick, right? In Spanish, they pronounce it tilde. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Tilde is the wavy sign, and then tilde is the backtick is yeah, used for comments and things like that. So you're gonna press Control tilde, and that will bring up your VS Code terminal. And I have a super wide screen that I'm working on, so I like to generally put my terminal not across the bottom, but to the right side of the screen, easier to see things. The way you do that is you're just gonna click in this empty space here between the terminal tab here, and then the area where you can pick like your default shell, bash. You just click anywhere in between there, right click, and you click move panel right. And that sets it up on the right side. Makes it a little bit easier. And then I like to have a split terminal. So I click that little icon there and it makes two terminals for me. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to switch out of the master branch, right? Good practice is to always just create your own branch to work from and then slowly but surely merge that branch into the master. So let's do a git checkout -b for branch space, and then we'll just call this Tico Teps. Enter, and now we switch to a new branch, the Sprint Challenge Django 1 repo. All right, so let's look at the README. So it says this challenge allows you to practice concepts and techniques learned over the past week and apply them in a concrete project. Sprint explores basics of Django, during a sprint. Study how to set up a Django project, build a REST API, use token authorization. All right, so basically we're going to be deploying to Heroku. All right, so let's see. Bunch of questions, yada, yada, yada. Let's see. All right, let's go to project setup. Here we go. The instructions below assume you're on master branch. Git. I am not a master. I'm on Tico Teps, but I will switch over to master because they have told me to. All right, so let's switch over to master. So we'll do git checkout master. Well, at least we're following best practice by creating a a different branch to work on. All right, so switchback master, sign up for Heroku. I already have an account. So let's go to Heroku.com. Nope, yep, I already have an account. All right, so actually I'd like to delete this right here. Don't need that one. Let's go to settings and let's delete that app. Save some room. Mentors, DB. There we go. Now I got some room to work with. Okay. So it says first step is to sign for Heroku. I already did that because I have an account. But if you don't have an account, then you'd want to go to Heroku.com, and then this will pop up, I think, or that's just the login, sorry. Heroku.com. This should come up, and then you'll just click on sign up, and you can sign up. I'm just gonna log in with my account. There we go. Okay, it says install the Heroku CLI. So if you don't have that installed, you just, on a Mac, you just hold Command down and then you click this and it opens up a new tab for you right here. I already have it installed. The install is pretty straightforward. You're going to, if you use a Mac, you can just use Brew, which is in reference to Homebrew, which is like kind of like a package manager for Mac OS computers. And you just would type this into your VS terminal here and run that command, and then you just follow the instructions. So since I already have it, we're going to skip that step. Sorry, I have way too many windows open, so this is a different one, but I'm just going to get rid of that. So let's just keep this one open. Okay, so once you finish installing the Heroku CLI, the command line interface, it says from your terminal, you're going to type in Heroku login. So if you are somebody who gets tired, happens to misspell things, just copy and paste right into your terminal so you don't have to worry about any frustrating debugging by spelling things incorrectly. So Heroku login, copy it. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put it into this terminal here. It says press any key to open up the browser to log in or Q to exit. So I'm just going to press enter. Opens up my browser. And so I'm just going to click this login button. It says you're logged in. You can close this page and return your CLI. It should now be logged in. So we'll close out of that. Go back to here. Look, logged in is ticoteps@gmail.com. Boom. Okay. So next instructions, it's kind of hard to see here. Let's look at these instructions. I like these ones better, a little bit easier to see. Okay, so it says get to your project repo directory. So let's ls to make sure we're there. So we are currently in the repo directory because we see the README in there, and the README is right here too. We see images, .env, deployment experiences, .markdown. There you go. So we know we're in the repo directory. It says install new dependencies. If using virtual env, use pip install as you have been, or migrate to pip env. So just to make sure, pip, so like Mac OS computers come preloaded with a version of Python that is, it's out of date. It's like Python 2.7. So they advise you to install Python 3.7, or I think it's 3.8 now. So when you type in Python into your terminal, if you type in Python -- version, that's the way that you would check the version of your Python. Most Macs that haven't been configured, like they're left with the default settings that that came with them when they came from the factory, they'll say Python 2.7 or something right here. Anyways, Python 2. I've set mine already to link to Python 3.7.6. But you'll also notice if I type in Python 3 -- version, that actually brings up a different version, Python 3.73. So normally this would be Python 2.7.6, and then this would be Python 3.7.3. And so I'd have to type Python 3 anytime I wanted to anytime I wanted to use any built-in methods from Python 3, because there are some things that are different from Python 2.7 to Python 3.7. So keep that in mind. Same thing goes for pip. So if I type in pip -- version, you'll see it says pip 19.31, Python 2.7. If I type in pip 3 -- version, notice that it says Python or pip 19.3.1, and it's connected to Python 3.7. That's where it comes from. So as you install these, we're going to be using pip env, but if you ever end up having to use pip, I would use pip 3 to install things. So you stay consistent with Python 3 that you'll be using for this repo as well. So it says install new dependencies. We're going to use pip env because it's more robust, as you'll learn, than pip is. So let's go ahead and just copy and paste this command. It's just easier to use. So Gunicorn, Gunicorn, however you want to think of it, that's the web server for Heroku to use rather than the built-in one that Django comes with. So let's go over here. We'll just paste that right in there so we don't misspell anything. Hit enter, and it's going to create a virtual env with Python 3.7.6 for me. Cool. So actually, I'm going to show you something cool here. So, okay, so when I installed Gunicorn, notice that it right away, it found out that it didn't have a pipfile.lock, which holds all of your like packages that you've installed in this environment. So that way, if anybody decides to download your repo and try to reproduce what you've created, they can reproduce it exactly to the spec because they have all the same versions of different packages that you had. So this is kind of like consider like a list of ingredients that you use to make like this pie. And like if you use like different versions of ingredients that are included, it might not come out the same, right? So this pipfile.lock is just saying, yo, use these versions of these ingredients that I've put together to create your pie. So it'll taste exactly the same way that I've intended for my recipe to taste. Okay, so notice that a lot of files have changed here. 1,000+ files. So here's what we want to do. We're gonna run. It's best practice is to always make commits whenever you make changes. You want to do that frequently so it provides like a breadcrumb trail for you in case you have to do debugging or you need to go back to a certain version and you'd like to see how that environment was, like what kind of state your code was in at that commit. It's super useful for debugging. So that's why you want to make frequent commits. So let's do git status, git add, period, git commit, and we will say creates a pip file, a pip file.lock, and also creates a virtual environment, and double quote. So your commit messages don't have to be that long. I like to be that long. I like to be more specific. That way when I'm doing any debugging and I'm looking at the git log, which is just the history of commits that have been made, those commit messages will come up next to each, I guess, commit, and it will tell me exactly what I did in that commit. So instead of like guessing and like having these vague git commit messages, and then I have to click and go into and like I have to explore what did I do here, like I can just know exactly what I did in that commit right from the git commit message that's listed there. So that's why it's important to be semantic, clear, concise with your commit messages. Okay. So one thing that I'm going to anticipate, like I said earlier, is this .them file will change pretty often. That has to do with your virtual environment. And so because it's going to change often, it's going to ask me to like commit. It's going to ask me to like keep track of thousands of files that are always changing. So instead, I'm going to create a gitignore file, and I'm going to include the .venv in there so that I won't always have to keep track of all the different changes that are made here. They'll just be kept locally. So let's right click in the root directory. We'll click new file. We'll put .git ignore. And you could just type in .benv here and .env, which we're going to make a .env file too. Or there's a really cool resource I like to show people that is gitignore.io. So here you can actually type in different programming languages that you're using, and they have like pre-made gitignore files for you to just use, and super useful, super fast. So we'll type in Django because we're using Django, hit create, and it automatically comes up with this really cool gitignore file. And so if you just press Command A on a Mac, it'll highlight everything, select everything. Then you press Command C to copy it. We'll go back to our repo, and I'll just delete these. And I'll press Command V to copy it in. Okay, so we just want to make sure that the .venv file is included in here, and also .env. So to search, you can just hit Command F, and that will bring this up, this little search box. You can type in .venv. So obviously there's nothing in there, so I should add it. So let's go here, .venv. And let's search for .env. Nope, there's no .env, which is where we're going to store our environment variables. So we're going to want to have that for sure included in the gitignore. So I'll put .env as well. Close out of this. Okay, so anytime we make a change, we want to make a commit, leave ourselves some nice breadcrumbs for later. So let's do a git status, git add, period. And as you can see, what did we change? We added a gitignore file, which was previously untracked, but now we're going to track it. Git commit -m, open double quote, and we'll say creates a .git ignore file and end quote. Then we'll do a git push. And if I hit enter right now without typing origin master, it's gonna like bark at me because I haven't set an upstream branch yet. Oh, actually it didn't, sweet. It automatically knows. Cool. I guess when you're working on like a different branch other than master and you just try to push it with the git push command, it'll generally ask you to set an upstream branch, basically tell it to only push up to the associating branch on GitHub, the remote branch that matches the branch that you have on your local machine. So prevent you from accidentally pushing into a different one. They have you always put origin and then the name of the branch. But if you set an upstream branch, it allows you to only have to type git push, and it automatically pre-designates every push from that alternate branch to its remote counterpart in GitHub. So it saves you some typing, basically. Okay, so we got our git ignore going, cool. So we can exit out of that. Let's go back to here and we'll look at the sprint challenge. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is, so we just installed Gunicorn or Gunicorn, right? Now I want to install psychopg2 binary. So we'll just copy that. Come over here. We'll click in that terminal, Command B to paste, and hit enter. And that should install psychopg2 binary, but it'll also notice here that it changes the pip file, right? It's got to update it because once again, that's like our list of ingredients that we're using to make the pie. And as I'm adding ingredients in, it would make sense for me to also update the list of ingredients that I'm using to make this pie. So that's what I want to do. So once again, we made a change. So let's commit those changes. Git status, git add, period, git commit, -m. How about we put installs, single quote, psychopg2 binary, close single quote, package, end double quote. Git push. There you go. Okay, whoops, sorry. I'm just gonna put this down here like this. That way we don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay. All right, so that allows us to, that's the PostgreSQL client binaries, handles that stuff, I guess. Okay, pipenv install DJ, which stands for Django, database URL. So enables parameterizing the database connection. So Heroku uses Postgres like for production, but the local is still SQLite. So same thing, we'll copy this, come over here, we'll Command P and then press enter and install it. Same thing, we're adding another ingredient into the pie, so we want to update the list of ingredients as well. Let's go ahead and save those changes. Git status, git add, period, git commit, -m, open double quote, installs. You can actually go up here and just copy this, save some time. Copy, so Command C, and come back down here. Command V, paste. And I'm sorry, I'm a little OCD. I like to have the quotes in there. So install psychopg2 binary package using pipenv, just to be, I guess, a little bit more specific. Enter, git push. The reason why I always push is because it just gets me in the habit of always updating the remote branch in case I'm working on a project with other people. Those are the people who are going to want to know what I'm working on. They're going to want to be continuously updated. So that way, if something changes and they know that it's not compatible with what they're doing, they can be aware of it right away and they can make adjustments for it. So I think it's important to get in the habit of making frequent commits and then pushing them frequently. Shows that you care about collaborating with others. Also helps for debugging purposes, obviously, if you have clear and frequent commit messages. Okay, so if we go back here, next command, pip env install white noise. This optimizes deployment of static files. Okay, so let's copy that. Oh, sorry about that. We'll go back to repo. Same thing here. Just click in the terminal, Command V to paste, hit enter. Same thing, adding a different ingredient. So we got to update the ingredient list for the pie. Git status, git add period, git commit -m, installs open quote, white noise, end quote, package using pip env, and double quote, git push. Okay. Next, if using virtual env, you need to create a requirements.txt file in your project directory with the command pip freeze greater than requirements.txt. So we are using a virtual env. How do we know that? Because we're using pip env, which is pip within with a virtual environment there. But also, sorry, let me go back to the repo. Also, because anytime you see, actually I haven't accessed our shell yet, but when I run the shell, we'll know we're in the virtual env, right? It says right here, to activate this project's virtual env, run pip env shell. So we're gonna run pip env shell, and it's launching the subshell. You know that it's in the shell, or sorry, the virtual environment. Whenever you see a set of parentheses in front of your bash, or your username, like your machine's name. And so whenever you see that set of parentheses with the name of the project inside of there, or the repo, you know you're in the virtual environment. So that's the first thing they want here. So they're saying if using virtual env, you need to create a requirements.txt file. So we don't have one of those. You can look here. We don't have a requirements.txt file. How do we create one? We're just going to use this pip freeze requirements.txt. Now remember I told you earlier, there's a difference between pip and pip3. We want to stick with pip3 because we're using Python 3. So we want to have a matching pip, right? So we'll Command V to paste, and we're just going to go in and change this to pip3, like that. And if we go back here, I actually forgot to copy that last T, so I'm just going to add that in there on the end of requirements.txt. Okay, so what does pip freeze do, or pip3 freeze? Basically updates that list that we're using to keep track of all the ingredients that are going into this pie. So we'll hit enter. So notice over here now we have this green requirements.txt file, and you can see the list of all the different packages we've installed and their version numbers. So that's always good to have, right? Because if you want somebody to recreate the pie here that you've made because it's so delicious, you want them to have the exact same ingredients, maybe from the exact same store, bought around the exact same time, like just super specific so that they could have the same experience that you're intending them to have. So just like we talked about before, Let's use git status. We're just gonna make a commit. Good practice, best practice. Git status, git add, period. Git commit -m, and we're gonna put creates a requirements.txt file with, I'm gonna put the exact command in there because I want to be specific. So pip3, why don't I just copy it? Maybe a little bit faster, huh? Command C. Okay, there's Command B to copy to paste. And then we'll end with a single quote and then end with a double quote to close the whole message. Okay, we'll git push it, get it up there in the remote for other people, even though there's no other people on this project. It's nice anyways, good habits. Okay, so we've installed all of the dependencies in step 5 that they've asked us to install. That's good. Now it says prepare your project. So it says copy the .env file. Once again, remember .env represents actual, like period, and then env, which stands for environment, where you would store your environment variables inside of that hidden file because it has the little dot in front of it, right here. So this should not be checked in, which is why we included it in our gitignore. If you remember from earlier, right here, we included in the .gitignore so that it would get ignored when we created it. So go ahead and click on this area here, which will highlight the root directory. You're going to right click on it and click new file, and we're going to create a .env file. And this is where we're going to store our environment variables, which would be anything like secret keys, database URLs, strings, secret keys, anything like that. Okay, so it says it wants us to copy the contents of the .env file from our repository into an actual .env file. So let's do that. So let's go to .env, what they have here, and we're just press Command A. Oh, sorry, I guess you got to put the cursor inside the .env file. Press Command A, that will select everything. Then Command C will copy it. We'll click over here in .env, and you'll click Command, not click. Sorry, you'll type, you'll press Command V, and that pastes everything in there. Okay, now if you notice, you'll save it, and this source control icon here, notice how that little flashing blue alert comes up, but it disappears. It's because it recognizes that gitignore says, yo, git, do not pay attention to anything that happens in this .env file. That is only for local eyes only. Okay, so we've done that. It says allowed hosts and database URL are probably already correct for your local development, but read and understand them. So let's go back here. So example env variables renamed to .env and customized, don't check in. So we can get rid of that comment, we've done that. Allowed hosts, local host, and 127.0.0.1. Database URL, this is our local database. We're using SQLite 3. And then in production, we'll be using Postgres. It says change the secret key in your Django shell. From Django shell.utils, .crypto, import get random string. And then this is the string that's used to generate a new key. So basically it's just the standard alphabet lowercase letters, and then numbers 0 through 9, and then some non-alphanumeric characters here, which are then jumbled up using this get random string method right here. And then it will create a brand new secret key for you, but I don't have to worry about that right now. Well, actually, I guess we can. Why not? Let's do it. Okay, so you go back here, use example code, you can just run in Python REPL to generate a new secret key and change secret key. Okay. So the way that you do that is just like we did in the last video. You're gonna access a Python replet, which, or REPL, REPL stands for read, eval, print, and loop. That's very similar to like the REPL.it, which is a website that has like a sandbox environment where you can code in Python and JavaScript. In case you have never seen it, it looks like this. Boom. Yep, so it's just like a code editor where you can actually write things in Node.js, Python, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Cool. Okay, so we're gonna click this little split icon here, split terminal icon. That allows us to create another terminal. And we wanna access the Python REPL. So how do we do that? First, we're gonna run pip env shell. That is going to launch our virtual environment, which we know we're in because of the parentheses and then the name of our project right in front of our bash here. And then here, we're going to do, we're going to type in Python. And that brings us into our REPL. As you can see, indicated by the three less than symbols here. Oh, I guess greater than symbols because you read from left to right, sorry. It's late. Okay, so we can actually just copy this here. So we're gonna Command C, come over here, Command B, hit enter. Oh, we didn't install Django yet. That's why it's unable to import it. Sorry. Let's fix that. Okay, so sorry about that. Yeah, so we want to install that first. So actually, if you so let's do that really quickly. So we installed all these dependencies except for Django. Okay, so we need to go here to one of these terminals that has the virtual environment activated. And then we could just type in pip env install Django. Excuse me. Pip env install Django. Same thing here. We're adding a new ingredient to the pie. So what do we have to do? We have to update the list, aka pip file, list of ingredients that we keep track of. So if you look at that list now, it's like brown, right? Let's look at all these packages, aka ingredients. Right. Okay. So then we'll come back over here. Let's go to our bash terminal, and that's indicated because there is no parentheses with the name of our repo, which is Sprint Challenge Django I in front of my machine name right there. So inside that terminal, I'm gonna make a commit. Git status, git add period, git commit -m, double quote open, installs, and then let's do single open quote, Django, single close quote, via, I'm just gonna put the exact command in because I like to be specific, pip env install Django. Because some people might install with pip3 or pip install Django. And I'm installing with pip env because I want to remain consistent with what the README said, is that we'll be using pip env and install all of our dependencies. So make sure just to close this with a double quote, hit enter, we got our commit message there. And then we're gonna push. Keep everybody that doesn't exist on the repo updated to the changes we're making locally. Okay, so now we should be able to run this command. We hit the up arrow on a Mac in any terminal. It should bring up the most recent commands that you've entered, and you can continue to go up, and it'll give you a list of all the previous ones you've entered. So we want this from django.utils.crypto import get random string, right? And that comes from actually the .env. Okay, so we have that first expression that we put into our Python REPL. Let's hit enter. Still, did you look at that? Oh, wait a second. So we are currently, let's see, which version of Python are we using here? So Python -- version will give you the version of Python you're using. So 3.7.6, I guess that's also right here. Pivot.lock. You can also see here. What did I miss? What did I miss? Okay. So, let's skip this for now. I'm not really sure why it's not doing that. Let's just skip it for now. So we're still in the prepare your project phase here. So let's copy the .env. We've done that. That's okay. Allowed host and database URL are probably already correct for your local environment, but read, understand them. Okay, so actually a lot of this stuff, remember it's a sprint challenge, right? So like they're not gonna include all the stuff you already know how to do, which is covered in the other video here. In the day one intro video that I go over. So actually you want to run these commands here, just like we did in the other video. So let's do that. Let's, in the bash terminal, put pip env --3, and that just tells pip env that we want to create a virtual environment that utilizes Python 3. And it's just saying that there's a virtual environment that already exists. Oh, excuse me. It says here, your pip file requires Python version 3.7, but you're using 3.8. Pip env --rm and rebuilding the virtual environment may resolve the issue. Okay, so let's try that. So let's just copy this here. Pip env --rm, copy, paste it, and enter. So it's going to remove the virtual environment. And it says rebuilding the virtual environment, so we got to do the same thing. Pip env install this time instead of the pip env --three. So now that I run pip env install, it installs Python 3.7.6, which is what we want. Come on, pip file. Okay. So we made a change. Let's make sure to commit those changes. Git status, git add period. git commit uninstalls current virtual environment, semicolon, installs new virtual environment using Python 3.7.6. I like to be specific. I feel like it helps me sleep better and helps me debug better. All right, and we're just gonna push that up. And obviously it's not a really good idea to push these up if you have like a secret key. So right now this secret key is inside of my .env file, but like if you didn't have a git ignore that was ignoring the .env, then this would be exposed to the public, right? Okay, so let's follow the next instruction here. So we want to be in pip env shell, right? So let's be in the shell. Let's actually exit out of this. There we go. So we're actually in a shell down here. So after you exit out of the REPL, we're actually in the shell because you can see the virtual environment, aka the shell. You can see that parentheses with the name of the project right there in front of bash. So here we're gonna run pip env install Django, which we did do earlier already. But you have to remember that we uninstalled and installed a new virtual environment. So let's try pip env install Django. Let's see what happens. Oh, see, it does install it. Okay. All right. Notice that nothing changed here because we have .venv in our git ignore, I believe. Yep, we do right here. And it's not grayed out, which is weird. I feel like it should be grayed out. Oh, that's because it's a new virtual environment. So let's maybe change this here. I'll put a star there for all. I believe that's what that's doing. So all.venv directories. Git status, git add, git commit -m. Let's see, updates.git ignore file to include all single quote .venv single quote end of directories and the double quote. Git push that. See if that changed anything. Didn't change anything. Huh. Would you look at that? Okay. Anywho's, let's keep going. So we need to run this command right here. Notice that there's a period there at the end. Don't forget the period. You cannot forget the period. The period is super important. What does the period mean? The period means this directory. So Django admin is it's kind of like a command. It's like a way to access a module, like kind of like Python. And this would be like the command or the argument you're giving to Django admin. So you're just creating a project, and then this is what you would name it. And then this tells it where you want to install it. So you're calling it dj.org, like for Django. And then the period says install it in this directory. Okay, so let's copy that. Make sure you get the period in there. And we're gonna come over here. And what are those? Django admin. Okay, so we want to make sure that we are in a virtual environment as well. Virtual environment in that terminal top. Paste. Command V, hit enter. And if you noticed, we have a new file over here called dj.org. That comes complete with the init.py, ASGI settings, urls.py, wsgi.py. And you also have that manage.py at the bottom, which allows us access to, if you've seen the other video that I did, it gives us access to like all of the built-in functions of Django. So using the /manage.py, that gives us the access to all the built-in functions. Okay, so let's go ahead and make another commit because we made a change. Git status, git add, git commit -m, double quote. Let's say creates a new Django project using, and I like to be specific, right? Because I know then what kind of like command I use. If you have a bunch of different package managers like pip or pip3 or like pip-env, like you know exactly which one you used, especially when you go back to look at the git log, like the history of commits. So, excuse me, creates a new Django project using, let's just copy that right from up there. Make sure you don't forget the dot at the end there. Don't do it. Don't forget it. And you'll click back here, Command V to paste, and then close with a single quote, and then we'll say command, because it's a command that we used. And then double quote to end it and hit enter. Git push up our changes, boom. Okay. Next command. So we want to create an app. So let's just create one. Let's call it yeah, let's do the same exact thing we did here. So we'll just copy this, Command C, go over here to that terminal. We want to go to the terminal with virtual environment. So as long as we see the parentheses with the project name inside in front of the bash, then we know we're in the virtual environment. Command V to get that in there. Okay, so we're creating an app, right? And so the way Django works is Django, so like if you've ever used React, you understand that you have like an app.js file, and that app.js file will take in a bunch of different components, right? And then that app.js file gets like injected into the virtual DOM that's put out as like a HTML file. And so with Django, instead of having an app.js file that holds all of those components, it has a project that holds a bunch of apps, right? So this note app that we've created is going to go inside of the dj.org project, which will then be rendered to the client or the front end using like URLs, different URLs. So let's see. So let's commit some changes since we just created a new app called Notes. I'm going to git status, git add period, git commit -m, double quote open. We'll say creates a new Django app using, and we'll type the command, or we'll just copy it. It's faster. Command C, Command V, and then close that with single quotes using Django admin start app notes command. Close that off, double quotes. Git push for the win. Okay, cool. Now we just, we want to run the server and make sure everything works. So copy that, go over here, and let's Command V to paste it. Actually, you want to make sure that you're in the root directory, right? It should be, because you have a manage.py there file. Okay, so Command V, hit enter, and boom, we have a working server. We have this like red warning. It's not an error, it's a warning because the server is still running. So, oh, actually it says that error port is already in use. So I'm actually running, hold on one second. I'm running it on a different, so I'm actually running in this project here, which I can just press Control C to cancel that. If I come back over here to this repo, we can actually press up arrow to get the /manage.py run server command. Enter. And it should work now. Yep. So the non-blinking cursor here at the end means that it's waiting for any requests, HTTP requests that it will handle. And let's just check to make sure this is working. Right. So we press, if I highlight over this, you have live server right here. I think it allows you to do this where you can highlight over that, press Command, and then click it, and it will actually open up the link for you. There is our server successfully rendering. And that's same, this is the same thing as localhost 8000. Same exact thing. See? Okay, cool. So if we go back to the sprint challenge, actually day 1 right here, these are the other things we want to run before we go back to the sprint challenge. So let's just go ahead and show the migrations. So Command C, we'll go back over here. Make sure that you're inside of the virtual environment, which is indicated right there, those parentheses and the title of the project's name. Command V, and we'll hit enter. And that shows us the migrations. Remember migrations, I explained that in the previous video, but migrations are the changes that we want to make to the database, right? So these are all the different apps that it's showing using the show migrations command. You have the admin app, auth app, content types app, sessions app. And remember, like we talked about before, apps go inside of the project, which gets rendered on the front end, or gets rendered in an HTML site. So currently right now, we have all of these migrations, but none of them have been run because there will be an X here in each box if it is run. And what again is exactly a migration? It's a change to the database. And so these are each represented by like raw SQL queries, which, you know, you're just asking you're asking the database to do something, whether it's like create something, delete something, add something, just those like CRUD functions, right? Create, read, update, delete. Sorry. Okay, so let's see. Next thing we want to do, sorry about that. Next thing we want to do is we want to actually migrate those. So that will be what this command here will run those migrations for us. So we copied that. We'll come over here to that same terminal, making sure you're inside of a virtual environment. And we're going to Command V. So /manage.py migrate. We'll hit enter. And notice it says operations to perform. We're applying all the migrations for all of these apps, admin, auth, content types, and sessions. And then you see these OKs. Those let you know that like the query was successful and it ran what it was supposed to run on the database. So if you run the show migrations command, you'll actually see all of these boxes will be filled with X's now that you've run the migrations on them. So we'll press up to get the previous commands. There's show migrations, hit enter. There we go. So that means that the database has now been queried using all of these migrations. And we can actually check these out by going to, we'll actually restart the server so that it can update with those changes. So we're going to press Control C. And notice how that took me back to the bash here. And we want to run the server, but we can't, right? Because we don't have a virtual environment. So we need to make sure that we access the virtual environment first. So let's go to, we're going to pip env shell. Did I put that command in there? Oh well, I'll just type it. Pip env shell. So that's going to launch my virtual environment. I know that because I got the parentheses with the title of my project here in front of the bash. And then I'm going to make sure that I can run my server. I'm going to press up on the arrows until I get, oh, there's the command I want. /manage.py run server. Let's hit enter. And there's our server. Notice that there is no more red warning there like we had before. Why? Because all of our migrations have been run. So if you scroll up, you can see here, this is the old warning that we got before. You have 17 unapplied migrations. Your project may not work properly until you apply the migrations for the following apps: admin, auth, content type, sessions. Then it just tells you to run this command to apply them. So if you scroll down, you can see that we don't have that error, or sorry, that warning anymore. It's not an error. If there's an error, then the server wouldn't even run. So we know that that runs, and we can even check it out a different way. So check this out. So if we go to, we scroll here, and we go to your localhost 8000. Now, so one of the apps, do you remember, is called admin. So admin has a URL that's actually called admin, right there. So this URL pattern, right, it says that this path here, if you add a /admin to our localhost 8000, it'll actually take you to this view here that we have for admin. So /admin. Look at that. Django comes built in with like administration features, or like auth features, which is pretty cool. Okay, so let's go to the next day one command. So we already ran the server. Check it. Now let's just add a model. Add a model. And the way that we added a model before, so if you scroll down in the day one, that markdown file, you can scroll on here to add data models. You're going to go to the notes directory. You can go to models.py. You're going to create a class in there called note. I go through this whole thing in the previous video. So if you haven't seen it yet, go back to that and refer to that video. It goes more in depth than this will. But essentially, we're just going to want to copy this here. Command C. And we're going to go to notes directory. We're going to go down to models. And we're going to paste it in right there, like that. And we're going to go back, make sure we didn't miss anything. We actually, so these are the different attributes that this note class will have. Because remember, a note is like something you write. It's always going to have a title. It's always going to have content. Default is set to blank, right? Because when you first start writing a note, there's nothing in there. Max length, 200 characters the most, right? That's what it's default set to right now. And the last thing we want to add in there is an ID, right? Because if you've ever used SQL before, you understand that like records in tables in SQL, they use like a primary key or like an ID to keep track of these records. And they automatically increment as you add like instances or records to a table. So that's kind of a really nice feature that does that for you. So once again, I go in more depth on the previous video where I go over day 1.markdown in the intro Django repo. So check that out. So we first want to import this module, or I guess it's called a library. Import the library here, paste at the top. We're gonna go back over here and we're gonna copy this whole thing here. This is another attribute we're gonna be adding to this class. We want to put it at the top because it's pretty important. The ID it's like the defining characteristic of a record in an SQL table. And as you can see here, it's like primary key is true. The default value is UUID4, which is just like an algorithm used to generate a random UUID for this. So that way you don't have like multiple records of the same ID. And then editable is false because you don't want these to change. You want these to stay the same. Okay, so we've done all of these things. Says here next we need to tell the project that the app exists. So that's like saying tell app.js that this component exists. But in Django, remember we use apps as our components, and then our project is like our app.js file from React. So we're going to go to dj.org, and then we're going to go to settings.py, and then we're going to scroll down to installed apps. And this is something that I go over in the other video more in depth. So if you are lost right now, just go back and check out the other video. So we're going to hit enter, and we're just going to put notes in there like that. Make sure you have a comma to separate it from the rest of these items in the array. Let's save it, and notice that my server is still running. So that's good. So since we made a change, let's make sure to commit those changes. So let's put exit here so we can get out of there. Oops, sorry, just exit like that. There we go. Wait a second. Why is it not exiting? There we go. Just gotta type the word exit in there. All right, let's do get status, get add period, get commit -m. So something in my VS Code directory has changed. And settings.json. Okay, so basically it's just telling VS Code to always run Python 3.7 whenever I open this repo. Okay, so back to the commit message. What did we get changed? We created a model for notes, created a class, sorry. So let's open double quote, creates a, I'll use a single quote, note class, and adds it to the installed _ apps section in the settings.py file, and with a double quote. Git push, there we go. So we can see if this works or not. Over here, we'll go to our site, and instead of localhost admin, let's do HTTP // localhost, and then we'll just / notes. And we're not getting anything because we haven't created the URLs for it yet. So that's okay. But we can still go to admin. Yep. And we can still go to the homepage. There we go. Okay. Whoops. Sorry. Whoops. What's going on here? So let's go back. There we go. And where is my, there it is. Oh, that's the day 2. Sorry about that. Here we go. And I want to put this on this side. Here we go. Okay. Back to what we were doing. So we just committed those changes. And what we did was we created that note class and we added it into the settings.py file under installed apps so that our project knows that we have a notes app, just like an app.js file would need to know that we have a specific component that we'd like for it to integrate into that injected virtual DOM. Okay, so let's go back to here. So we've added it to installed apps in the sections.py. Now we just want to generate migrations, right? Actually, we want to show the migrations first. So this will show all of the migrations for the Notes app. So if we go here, remember we talked about these are all migrations. Notice right now, though, there is no Notes app. There's admin app, an auth app, content types app, and a sessions app, but there is no Notes app. Now, if we Command V, we hit this, you'll see that there's a Notes app right there, but it doesn't have any migrations. And that's because we haven't created any instances for it yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to generate some migrations. So we're going to copy this here. And like I said, I go more in depth in this in the previous video, so check that out if you haven't already done that. Or come over here, Command V, create or make migration, sorry. And notice now it says create model note. So if you press the up arrow in this same terminal again, you should be able to get the show migrations command right there. Now, if you hit enter, instead of saying no migrations right there with that red font, you'll actually see that it says 0001 initial under Notes app. It's because we use that make migrations command, this one right here, and it created those migrations for us. Now, we want to be able to, we just did this where we double checked that we saved it. So now we just want to run this migrate command, which will actually migrate this for us, and it would turn this empty box into an X, which means that it has carried out successfully this migration, which is what? Migration is just making a change to a database, right? So it's just going to run this raw SQL query that that this name represents right here. Okay, so we're going to Command V. We have the manage.py migrate command there. Press enter, and we just ran those migrations. There's the green OK that says we ran this migration here for the Notes app, and we can even prove it by going to show migrations command again. And there it is. There's an X inside of the Notes app migration right there. Sweet. Okay. I'm not sure we have to add any data with the Python shell. We can do it just to do it though. This is another thing that I go over in the previous video. So we're going to create an instance here that's going to be added to our database, and it's actually saved to our database straight from like a Python replit in the shell. So you're going to use this command. Just copy it. /manage.py shell, and that will bring up a Python REPL, which stands for read eval print loop. You're going to want to do that inside of a virtual environment like this one. So Command V, enter, and then see those 3 greater than symbols there? That indicates that you are in the Python REPL. And we're just going to want to import notes.models from, sorry, we're going to want to import note from notes.models because note is a class. So we're just going to copy that. We paste that right into here, into the REPL. Hit enter. It saves it and memorizes all that. I'm going to create a new note and set it equal to n. Now remember the note class, it actually has 3 parameters. But the first parameter is this ID right here, which is self-incrementing, and so you don't have to worry about it. So the only 2 things you have to worry about are the title and the content. Now, if you don't put a title in, it's going to automatically assume that the actually, no, if you don't put it, you have to put a title in. This just says that this attribute has a max length of 200 characters. And then if this comes in blank, it's automatically, I'm sorry, it starts blank. That's right, it starts blank. Attribute blank, it's true, okay. So this example here of creating a new note says that the name or the title of the new note is going to be called example. And the contents of the note are just going to say this is a test. So we're basically creating an instance of a note object here, sorry, note object here from the models.py class or models.py file. So we'll go back to this Python REPL, and we had earlier copied the expression used to create a new instantiation of the note object. So we'll Command V to paste, enter, and then now if you type N right there and you hit enter, it will bring up the that object that you just created, but it'll print it out in this kind of way, which is, I believe, the location of that object inside of our memory, inside our RAM. Okay. And it says here, if you use this n.save method, it will actually utilize a built-in function from models that will save this new thing or object that we created to our database. So let's Command V to get that in there, n.save, hit enter, and believe it or not, it has been saved. How do we know? Because you can exit it, go back in, and then retrieve it using note.objects.all, which I also go over in the previous video, so check that out. I'm going to do that really quick though here, so we'll just exit. Sorry, exit with the parentheses. And then we're going to hit the up arrow to get the command for the shell to go back into the REPL. We're just exiting it so that we can like prove that it's still saved. Enter, now we're back in the REPL, which stands for read eval print loop. And what are we going to do? We're going to set a variable b equal to this command right here, note.objects.all. And what that does is it's going to retrieve all of the objects of that, all of the instances of that specific class. So Command V, and we want to actually set this equal to b, a variable. Oh, that's right, I did not import, sorry. You actually have to still do this import here. So from notes.models, import node. So that needs to go in there first. And then you can do your b variable equals node.objects.all. Once again, that's going to retrieve all of the instances created for that specific class. So if I type in b, there it is. Query set, it's an array, but there's only one item in the array because we only created one object. All right, so let's do git status, git add, git commit -m, open double quote, and we're basically going to put runs migrations for open single quote notes app, end double quote. Let's do a git push. Okay, so we have that saved. So basically, I actually went through the entire. I won't go through this part because we go over that more in depth in the previous video, so you can just go watch that. Let's get back to the sprint challenge though. Okay, so we should now be able to run these other steps that are required for preparing our project in the sprint challenge that we started the video out with. And it says copy the .env file in this repository to the .env in your repository. Okay, so let's check that. We have a .env that it came with right there. And then we have the .env right there that we created this one. Oh, and so actually we can actually run this command right here, which will actually, since we have Django installed now, we can actually create a brand new secret key. So if this secret key, like if you feel like it's already been exposed, you accidentally pushed it to GitHub, check this out. So we just use this, put it inside of this REPL over here, command B. So you just did this import statement to get access to the get random string function. And then you're going to copy this variable cars or chars, put that in there so the REPL remembers it. And then you're going to run this get random string method 50 characters. And it's going to utilize any of these characters in this cars variable to create a 50 character string that is generated randomly. So command V, and there you go. So we have a randomly generated string of 50 characters that includes alphabetic, numeric, and non-alphanumeric characters as well. So I just copied that string that it generated, and I'm going to replace my secret key with that one, like that. So now I have a new key. And I save it, and source control doesn't show any changes that were made because I have this .env file in my git ignore. Cool. Okay. All right, so we've done 1, 2, and 3 here. Number 4, dj.org /settings.py will need new imports from decouple import config and import dj database URL. So let's do that. So we'll just copy this and we'll do what they say. So in settings.py, you go to dj.org, which is our project. Think of that as like our app.js. We'll go to settings, and then at the top, right below this import OS statement, let's put our import for decouple. Oh, it's because we didn't install it yet. So we still need to install it. And we're also going to import DJ database URL. Same thing, let's put it in the same place. Okay, so in order to get our server to not have an error like this, we're going to, let's exit out of that REPL using exit in parentheses, and we're inside our virtual environment. You know that because the sprint challenge dash dash Django 1 is inside of parentheses in front of bash there. So let's do pip env install python dash decouple. And if you're somebody who gets tired and spells things incorrectly, make sure that you just copy and paste that so you don't get it wrong. You can find the Python decouple package name exactly in the intro Django day1.md file. So right here, pip env install Python decouple. I typed it already, but I'll just copy and paste it too. And delete that. Clear V, enter. It's installing it for us. Sweet. Once again, we're updating the ingredients that we're putting into our pie. So it's going to update the pip file, which is our list of ingredients. So let's go ahead and create a commit for that. Status, git add, period, git commit, -m, installs, single quote, open python dash decouple, close single quote, via single open quote, pip env install python dash decouple, close single quote, command, close double quote, enter, git push that bad boy. And if I want to see like what all I've installed, you can actually type in pip3 freeze. And that tells you what all the different packages that have been installed. With pip3. Oh, excuse me. And then if you do pip freeze, that's actually different from pip3 freeze, right? Shows you a whole different list. Now, notice that this list has the where's Python decouple at? Oh, I believe it's inside of our pip file anyways. Here it is, Python decouple. Okay, so we're back to here. Sorry, not back to there. We're back to the sprint challenge folder. And it says we don't need new imports. We've done that. We've done that one. So actually our server should be running again. So let's hit the up arrow in this middle terminal over here till we get the /manage.py run server command. Let's hit enter and see if we get, there we go. So watching for file changes with the stat reloader, perform system checks. Looks like our server is running now because we installed Python decouple. And it wasn't right, it like stopped running because we actually added Python, or we added an import statement for Python decouple inside of settings.py. Right here. And we hadn't installed it yet, so that's why I was freaking out. But let's take a look. Yep, look, it's running. Localhost 8000. Cool. Okay. So if we go back to the sprint challenge here, You can use config to load the environment variables you set above. Secret key, allowed host people to trigger that's why it's sprint challenge. Okay, so what we want to do then is I'm going to take this secret key out. Actually, our secret key is actually different from this anyways. Go to .env. Look, it starts with the RMMK, because remember I generated a new one inside of the Python REPL using this code right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this secret key here to use decouple. Decouple's config module. So we'll just copy this secret key equals config secret key. And we're just going to replace this whole thing. Cool little keyboard hack. If you have a Mac, you hold down Shift and hold down Command, and you press like any arrow, like left or right arrow, it will highlight the entire row like that. Now I have access to it. And I just want to do like Command B, so it pastes. Boom, check that out. And I check my Command S to save. Looks like my server is running just fine. And what is the other thing that we have to run? Allowed hosts. So allowed host right now currently is an empty array. It's because we have allowed hosts here. That's set to, oh, look at that. That's 2 parameters. So localhost and 127.0.0.1. And actually, what you want to do is, let's see. You want to do something similar to secret key here with the config module, except now that you have 2, notice that you have 2 parameters you're dealing with, 2 values, I guess. This one only has 1 value, right? The secret key. We need something that will split these 2 apart for us. So we'll go to settings.py, and we'll actually put config allowed underscore hosts, and then we'll come out here and we'll use .split, and then we want to pass in the single quote with the comma, and that just tells Python to separate all the entries of allowed hosts if we have more than one using a comma. Excuse me. All right, since we made some changes, let's commit them. Status git add, git commit, and what did we just change? So we removes secret underscore key from settings.py and correctly configures single quote allowed underscore hosts single quote section. Close the double quote. Push. Let's rerun this server, make sure it works. Okay, so as you can see there, I just pressed the up arrow, got the manage.py runs server command, and server is running. Go to localhost, still running. Go back to the sprint challenge. So we've done this one. We've taken care of the secret key and the allowed host. So for the database, you want to both load the database URL and pass it to dj-database-url.config. See the documentation. Let's go see it. Here's the documentation. So what is DJ database URL? So allows you to utilize the 12-factor inspired database URL environment variable to configure your Django app. The config method returns a Django database connection dictionary populated with all the data specified in your URL. There's also a connection maximum age argument to easily enable Django's connection pool. If you'd rather not use an environment variable, you can pass a URL in directly instead to DJ database URL without parse. That's what we're doing. So the question is, do we have the DJ database URL installed? Let's check our pip file. Yep, we do have it installed. It's right there. Configure database and settings.py from database_URL. Okay, so let's just copy this right here. Control C. We'll come over here to settings.py. And notice that right there we have databases. So right underneath that, one dent, we'll just paste. So we're importing the DJ database URL, and then we're also telling the default to have a configuration with a max connection age, 600 seconds, I believe that is. I think that's in seconds. Yep. So the con max age attribute is the lifetime of a database connection in seconds. So we just copied this there. Now we need to copy this one, provide a default URL for our Postgres database. So I'll just indent, add another one of those. Cool. Oh, excuse me. All right, and I want to copy this last configuration for databases. We're just going to parse through that. Enter, copy that in there. Okay, so notice the first two are configuring, and then the last one here is parsing. So server looks like it's still running, no problem. How do we check that? We'll just go to localhost 8000, hit refresh. Looks good. All right, we want to save any changes we made. So git status, git add, git commit -m. Let's do imports, single quote open, DJ_database_URL, close single quote. Into settings.py and also configures the single quote open databases, single quote close section, close double quote, push. I'm so tired right now. Okay. Let's go back to sprint challenge here. Okay. So we've configured all of this stuff. Let's look at that documentation again. Okay. So the URL schema will look like this. Okay. Excuse me. Let's go back to the sprint challenge repo. All right, so it says here we want to create a proc file. So let's click the example. So what is proc file? It tells Heroku what to run to start your app. It gives you a hint there. It says the name of your Django project is probably DJ.org, not getting started. So if we look at the example by pressing Command and clicking, it's going to open this up. This example, web Gunicorn getting started .wsgi. You remember what Gunicorn is? That's what we installed in the beginning as a dependency, and works with Heroku. Works with Heroku. So all we're going to do is let's copy this, and we're going to go create a proc file. And as you can see, proc file doesn't have any extensions. See, it doesn't say procfile.py or anything like that. If you click their repo and you scroll down, you can see it's just called procfile. So we're going to do the same thing in our VS Code over here. You just want to put it inside of the root directory, just like they have here in their root directory. Same level as the .env. Oh, excuse me. New file. We'll call it procfile with capital P. Enter. Let's paste that stuff in that we copied earlier. And the hint was your project is not called Getting Started, it's called DJ.org. So we're going to change this from Getting Started to DJ.org to match the name of the project that we made. All right, we made some changes, so let's go ahead and commit those changes. Git status, git add, git commit under -m. Let's put creates a proc file. Git push. Okay. Now we're going to go back to the sprint challenge here. Configure white noise. Add a few configuration lines to your settings.py file per the documentation. Okay, so what is white noise? White noise recklessly provides static file serving for Python web apps. A couple of lines of config white noise allows your web app to serve its own static files, making it a self-contained unit that can be deployed anywhere, even on AWS, especially on Heroku, though it says. Designed to work nicely with CDNs, content delivery networks. White noise works with any WSGI compatible app, but has some special auto configuration features for Django. Okay, so they install it here with pip. We've already installed white noise with pip env, if you remember correctly. And if you don't believe me, let me show you in our recipes file. There's white noise right there. Install it with pip env. Quick start for Django apps. Edit your settings.py file and add white noise to the middleware classes list above all other middleware, apart from Django's security middleware. So we want to add this Django, this white noise middleware, So we'll just copy that. And let's go to our settings.py. Let's scroll up to middleware. And remember it says here, edit your settings.py file and add white noise to the middleware classes list above all other middleware apart from Django's security middleware. So basically everything except Django's security middleware. So let's go back here. So here's our middleware, right? Middleware section. I said everything except for Django's security middleware. So we're going to go and indent one below that. Command V, then we're going to hit Command S, and now we have it saved. Anytime we make a change, we obviously want to commit those changes. Git status, git add period, git commit -m. Let's do adds and then open single quote, white noise, close single quote, to open single quote, middleware, close end quote, section in settings.py file. All right, let's push that. Look, our server's still working. Let's stop the server and run it again just to make sure it does. Control C will stop the server. We'll press up on the arrow keys. There's run server, hit enter. And yes, server's working just fine. Yeah. Let's make sure it works though. Let's go here. Hey, there it goes. Refreshed it and it works just fine. Okay, last few steps. Add static settings to your settings.py. So we're just going to copy this. And we're going to go to our settings.py. We're going to go to the bottom. Oh, looks like we already have something very similar to that. So I just copied both. I'm sorry, I just pasted what I copied both of. And we're just going to delete one, delete the top one. Command S to save it. Git status, git add, git commit -m. Let's see. So basically we already had the static underscore URL section. We're just now adding the static underscore root. Adds a single quote open static underscore root. Single quote close. Section to the settings.py file. Okay. And let's see, is the server still working? Let's do Control C to stop the server. Let's go up on the arrow keys, find run server, hit enter. Boom. Looks like it's still working, no problem. Cool. All right, now we're getting to the end. Oh yes. Heroku Create Your App makes the project and adds Heroku as a remote to your Git repository so you can push to it to deploy. Okay, so we're just gonna copy this. This is a command. This is why we installed the Heroku command line interface right there at the beginning. So you can do things like this where you can just make changes to your project right from VS Code, and then instead of having to go to the GUI to update it, you can just push straight from your command line and it will automatically update in Heroku. Okay, so let's go here to our bash terminal, Command V, and then we won't call it your app. We'll just Heroku create. Let's call it same thing that we have here. Sprint dash challenge dash Django dash I. Hit enter. There we go. So it just says right there, it says creating sprint challenge Django I, done. So it has finished creating one of those. Next project and adds Heroku is remote. Okay, so Heroku add-ons, create Heroku -PostgreSQL hobby dev. Makes a PostgreSQL database associated with the project and sets the database URL Heroku config var equivalent to a local environment variable. So let's go ahead and copy that. Let's go over here and we're going to paste it into the bash terminal. All right, so I just ran that command, Heroku add-ons, create Heroku PostgreSQL, hobby dev, creating Heroku PostgreSQL Hobby Dev on Sprint Challenge Django I, which is free. Has to be free. I need to be free. Database has been created and is available. The database is empty. If upgrading, you can transfer data from another database with PG : copy. Created PostgreSQL objective 40571 as database URL. Use Heroku add-ons, Postgres view documentation. Okay. So set the other Heroku config vars, allow hosts to equal .heroku app.com. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna copy this here. We're gonna go to the .env. And we're gonna change allowed hosts. So Command V. Oh, sorry. I guess we can delete first part. Command S to save. Debug is to equal false. Command C. So let's change this. Okay, I'll save that. And secret key equals some new secret. See the documentation. I already changed mine, so I'm not going to change it. You can set either via the Heroku CLI or by logging into the Heroku dashboard. Deploy. Okay, so that's all saved. I can actually delete. Kind of want to change this order. It's messing with me. Having all these comments in between. Yeah, I like that better. It's a little bit more clear. It's not like I have to commit the changes because .getIgnore is not paying attention .env. All right, so now we're just gonna run the git push Heroku master. So Command C. So once you've got to deploy, you'll probably need to run migration to the Heroku since it's using a different database than local. You can do this with Heroku run python manage.py migrate, and in general Heroku run python manage.py. It's the way to do all the helpful Django things just in production. For example, Heroku run python manage.py creates screw users, a good thing to do, and administer. Explore the app data with the Heroku run python py shell. Okay, cool. So let's just run this command and see if we can get it pushed to Heroku. Then hopefully you'll have your project deployed. Command C. Okay, down here, Command V. Hit enter, and let's see what happens. Notice that's using all of our specific ingredients, if you will, which include the pip, the pip-env, Python, all the dependencies in the pip file. Okay, so it says remote rejected, master to master, pre-receive hook declined. Failed to push some refs to HTTPS, get Heroku.com, sprint challenge. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Did I really spell sprint challenge wrong? Man, I knew that was some, oh man, okay. Oh, no, I spelled it right. Sprint challenge. Name of the repo. Did I not spell it right in the actual repo here? Oh, I spelled it right there. Oh, I didn't spell it right there. Okay, so let's go to the GUI. update that. There's Sprint Challenge Django. Okay. So this actually should have a different name. Oreo, resources. Okay, let's try that same thing again. Same command. Oh, so we have to initialize it again. So we'll actually follow the instructions right here, which you can find if you go to your Heroku dashboard, and then you end up going to the name of the database that you created when you created on the command line using Heroku CLI. And then you go to deploy tab. Scroll down. So I'm wondering if we'll have to log in again. So let's go to Heroku login, or we'll copy that, I mean. Come over here, hit that, we'll hit any button, bring us over here, log us in, and close this, and it'll have us logged in there. Awesome. Now we're gonna go to the next one. Let's do this, get in it and see what happens. Oh, we have to CD into the project. CD into the project first. So we'll CD. Well, this is the project actually, huh? Let's do a git init. There you go. And we're gonna run this Heroku git command remote a sprint challenge. Okay. Command V. Here we go. Set a git remote Heroku to that one right there. And it says deploy. So now we will commit your code to the repository and deploy using Heroku using git. So git add. Okay. Git commit AM, make it better. Git push Heroku master. Let's see what happens. It's 12:45 in the morning. I should have been asleep like 2 hours ago. All right. Hopefully this works. Push failed. Okay. Secret key not found. Huh. So .env. I wonder if it makes a difference if we have. Check our settings. .py again. Decouple from import config. Oh, it's because we have to put this database URL config. We should put the right ones in there. Database URL, so we have to take this and we have to put it in here. I believe. Database URL. Wait, no you don't, because that does it automatically. Lot hosts. Database URL in the settings.py. Defaults. Postgres. This is where I think we put this. Yeah, there we go. So apparently you need to put the, so if you go to the settings tab in your Heroku databases, I guess, dashboard, you need to extract this value here, this database URL, and you config variables, and it will say like reveal config variables. Click that, you get that value. You're going to take that and you're going to put that here where you have the databases default set to dj underscore database underscore url.config and parse. Oh, my computer just froze. Okay, so my computer just froze. Sorry about that. Is it still recording? It's still recording. Sweet. Okay, so I'll just share my screen here. There we go. Hopefully you can see my screen okay. Yeah, I believe you're seeing my screen okay. All right, so once you extract this value, you're going to want to just copy that and paste that into the two settings that you put inside of settings.py for databases. So it looks like this. So they initially look like Postgres ://. So all I did was, so notice over here, there's like Right here it says system check, no issues going on. But now when I make sure that those links are there, you notice that I have 18 unapplied migrations. What tells me that this is correct is if you go to the repo, scroll down, after you've run it, set the other Heroku config vars. Oh wait, actually, oh, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. So yeah, you're supposed to set this on your Heroku config variables. Oh wow, sorry. Whew, tired. So yeah, so they're talking about this right here. So if you go back to the sprint, let's bring this over here. Sprint repo, you need to have allowed hosts as a config var, and you're going to set it equal to what they have here, which is .heroku.com, herokuapp.com. So copy that, set that here, hit add. You need to go back. You get debug, set that equal to false. Actually, so take that out. Set equal to false. Add that, and then secret key. And we can just extract the one that we've used in our .env here. So actually I messed up. So this actually should stay the same. This should not be Heroku app up there. That will actually be localhost. So this is what it runs when it runs locally. Okay. Okay, so we want allowed hosts on our local machine to be localhost, 127.0.0.1. But inside of Heroku's config vars, we want it to be this. And so we actually want to take this secret key, which actually should be this right here, this RMM. We'll copy that. And we're going to put that here. Edit. That looks good. What did we change on here? Settings.py. Oh yeah, so we did change that. Let's go here, get status, get add, get commit, updates. What is that? Updates, single open quote, databases, single quote, close, section in settings.py file with Heroku. What do we update with? Database URL. Database URL. And close it, double quote, enter, hit push, and we should be good to go. And if it doesn't work, I'll figure it out later on another day when I'm not as tired. So we're gonna go back to deploy. Let's run these again here. So we just want to run this where we can add the Get Heroku remote. So let's, okay. So we just added it, the remote, and then now we can actually just run this Git push Heroku master and should work. And it is so late right now. And I'm so tired. Ugh. We have 18 unapplied migrations. Oh, look at that. Verify and deploy. Done. Thank you, Jesus. Oh, yes. So I've just successfully deployed a Django project for the first time in my life while helping somebody else do it too. That's for you, Elise Spain. Stayed up late for you, girl, because I was in your position once and I struggled with build weeks and with sprints and things. But you know what, man? One of the best qualities you can have is just perseverance, just sticking through it, getting up those reps. Okay, so it looks like it is running. So if I press command and I click this link, let's open it and let's see what we have. Method not allowed. Okay, well, I think it's because we didn't run these migrations. So actually the way to do that is, let's see, we just want to follow the instructions here. Yeah, so once you got it deployed, you probably need to run migrations. Heroku is different. Since it's using a different database than local, you can do this with Heroku run Python manage PyMigrate. So let's do that. I think that will fix it. Control C. And because we have it deployed, it says it's verified. Verifying deployed, done, boom. So we're just gonna run that command that says Heroku run Python manage.py migrate. And in general, Heroku run Python manage.py is the way to do all helpful Django things just in production. Okay, so we're just gonna migrate. Right, yeah. Let's go here, so it's Command B to save it. Let's see what happens. 1 o'clock in the morning. Gotta be up in 4 hours. Oh, look at that. Sweet. So it actually ran all the migrations and it didn't do it locally. It did it, you can see that purple font there. Did that on the Heroku database that we created. And it ran all the migrations for admin, for auth, for content types, for notes and sessions, all those different apps. So as you can see, that first video I made, the one right before this for the intro to Django day one, that was actually a worthwhile video because I truly understand what has happened here in this overview or tutorial of the sprint because of what we did in that last video. So sweet. I'm glad I made the other video before this one because everything does really make sense now. Okay, so everything has been successfully deployed. So hopefully this means that you will be able to have no issues deploying your build week project tomorrow when you go to do this and when you watch this video. Yeah, hope this works. I guess we could check to see if it is working. Let's go to overview. So it says it's deployed. Resources deploy. So if we click open app, it should actually take us there. There you go. We've deployed it. Yeah. And you can tell because this is not localhost 8000, it's Sprint Challenge, Django i.herokuapp.com. And this is exactly what we saw over here on localhost. And check this out. So if I type in notes, well, actually notes won't pop up because I didn't create a URL pattern for that. Admin. Let's see if admin pops up on this one. Hey, that works. So that works. There's URLs. The notes app. There's notes. Cool. So I'm assuming that if we wanted to see the notes like app rendered, we would need to create in the notes directory. We'd have to go to, just like they have a urls.py here. Actually, this is where we'd have to put path, notes, admin site.urls, and then I believe it's in, where is it at? Views? Yeah, you'd have to create a view for it. Yeah, you have to create a view for it, and then you'd have to go into urls.py in the project, and then add it as a path, just like it says right here. Yep. Cool. All right, well, looks like everything was successful. I hope that really helped you. I'm gonna go to sleep now, but yeah, watch this video. See ya.